It is Monday, December 8th, 2025. This is another offseason edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well. I'm really confused what we're doing here. Are you going to keep shaving? Are we going winter beer? What are we doing here with this look?
It's day by day. I had the mustache for a little bit because Liv was into it, and then she's like, "Yeah, I don't know." Like she was kind of like out on it, so I shaved. I don't know. I think my skin looks really good.
You do
so,
look good.
Yeah, I'm kind of into this look.
Yeah,
right now.
I like
yeah.
it too.
And you know what? Here's my thing. And no offense to you, everyone has beards nowadays.
No offense taken.
So I'm trying to break the mold. I want to look like I saw Taylor Fritz in Japan. I think I mentioned that. Guy's a good-looking young guy. I don't really have that, but maybe he's my muse.
Okay, perhaps. You can always leave a comment on what you'd like to see out of Plouffe. He probably won't listen, but it's worth throwing in there anyway. We got a lot to get to with the baseball winter meetings underway in Orlando, Florida. And by the way, for the latest, Jake Storiale, Jolly Olive, part of our cast and crew down there. So they'll be getting some fun interviews with decision makers and managers. Make sure you check out our social media channels and Talking Baseball and everything else, John Boy Media, for things that are going to be flying out of Orlando. We will get to all the rumors out there. We'll get to the Hall of Fame all momentarily. But first, an offseason tip of the cap. This is a great little thing. Freddie Freeman of the Los Angeles Dodgers. We know about his Canadian background. Both of his parents Canadian. And so he shot a thing. I think Ryan Reynolds, who is also Canadian, famous actor, got him to do something for the Sick Kids Foundation in Toronto. And so they put out this nifty little ad.
Hey, kids. It's me, Freddie Freeman.
What a loser.
Trust me, man. We know who you are.
You've really got some nerve coming here.
I just wanted to visit because I'm just so happy and so proud of
Get
how you guys
outta
are.
here.
Whoa, who threw that?
Go back to your sunshine and traffic, you hoser. You ruined everything.
By the way, I love what you guys are doing here.
Let's go, Blue Jays. Let's go, Blue Jays.
What a clown.
Let's go, Blue Jays.
Do you even lift, bro?
Let's go, Blue Jays.
That's my favorite line. Do you even lift, bro?
That's so good. That is so good on Freddie Freeman right there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That is excellent. And by the way, I believe that you can make a donation all the way up to Christmas Eve, and somehow they're going to match up to $1 million. So, Dan, you know what? We should put the link in the description today for that. So if you can spare anything, I know there's a lot of worthwhile charities out there. We're talking about the Sick Kids up in Toronto, who are fantastic actors, by the way.
If you're from Los Angeles, you should donate a little bit.
Totally.
You just won the World Series. You beat them. You were down to your last out. You can spare $5.
Yeah. Yep. That was awesome. That is great. All right, let's get to it. Rumorville running rampant out of the baseball winter meetings. And this gem from Ken Rosenthal on Sunday night, who reported that, yes, the Pittsburgh Pirates have made a 4-year offer to free agent Kyle Schwarber, believed to be for more than $100 million. Do we believe this? And do you believe that the Pirates have any shot?
I mean, I believe that the offer's there. I feel like that's a pretty credible source there. And usually you say, the reason I'm wearing this cap, you forgot to say that, Chris Rose. I do think the offer is real. You know, they've come out and consistently said we have more payroll flexibility this year than we've had in years past. Now, do I believe that Schwarber will end up in Pittsburgh? I don't, unfortunately. Look, people are mad at me because I gave one sly remark about the Pirates in the playoffs. Okay. I would love more than anything for Pittsburgh to, put together a contender behind that pitching staff. And look, this is the start of it. I think he's going to get more. I think there's more desirable places for him to play, especially at this point in his career. Most of the time he's made a lot of money already. Does he want to continue to maximize his value? Yes. But I think the most important thing to him right now is getting to the playoffs and doing that. That's what happens, with a guy like Kyle Schwarber. So I don't think he ends up there. I do think this is a real offer. I'm excited for the Pirates, and I hope that they have contingency plans if if and when he turns this down, to go add some offense, because we've talked about it so much. Like, they do have pitching. They have a generational type starter at the top of their rotation that we'd love to see in October. But yeah, I don't see it, Chris.
I'd say because you love the percentage game, I'd say there's a maybe 1% chance.
Oof.
I do believe, here's what I believe. I think this was put out there so that they could drive it to a 5th year, that his camp could drive it to a 5th year. And I think that he wants to stay in Philly. I think Philly wants him. I would be shocked if he doesn't end up there. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Cincinnati Reds. He grew up less than 40 miles from Cincinnati in a town called Middletown, Ohio. And that would be romantic and would help a team that made the playoffs, but we've talked about their need for positional leadership in that everyday lineup, and he would be a perfect fit for that. So that would make sense. But let's circle back to the Pirates. And I can't help but wonder if this is to show Paul Skeens, hey, we do mean business. And if you're willing to sign an extension right now after year 2, this is the sort of backing you're going to get from us as an organization. But there's a couple things you have to keep in mind with the Pirates. Number one, they have no money on their payroll. They have $31 million guaranteed next year. We're not talking about Paul Skeens, who's going to get $3.4 million in, pre-arb or wherever he is along his baseball earnings timeline right now. I'm talking about two dudes, $31 million guaranteed to Reynolds and Keller. That is it. They also have only given out one $100 million contract. That was an extension to Brian Reynolds. The most free agent money they've ever given out in their history was $39 million to Francisco Liriano in December of 2014. That's the most. So we're now going to make a $60+ million leap to bring in Kyle Schwarber. And by the way, to join the Pirates, it's going to have to be probably more like $90 million more than that number.
Yeah, here's the two long shot reasons that he would choose Pittsburgh. Number one, it'd be like that's by far the biggest offer that he got. Even then, I'd be like, I don't know if he would do that. And number two, and some guys have this attitude, and I'm not saying he doesn't have some like dog mentality in him, but some guys really want to go be the guy on a team that gets them out of the doldrums.
Mm-hmm.
But again, at this point in his career, I feel like he's been so close with the Phillies that I think he wants to run it back there. It just fits. I don't know, man. But we talked about it last night on Talking Baseball. Jake's like, everyone expects, okay, Pete Alonso sounds great. Back on the Mets, and Kyle Schwarber sounds great back on the Phillies, and Alex Bregman sure worked out with the Red Sox, but that's not how it happens. Like, guys leave. It's free agency. They get tempted by a different offer. A front office says, hey, we can reallocate this money to 2 different players, and we feel like that'll make our club better. So all it takes is 1 or 2 of these signings to go awry, and then everything kind of gets muddled up, and maybe this ends up being the best offer for Kyle Schwarber. If the Phillies say I want Cody Bellinger or I want Alex Bregman, that changes the dynamic of their offseason, and it could change the whole Kyle Schwarber marketplace.
Now, I don't know Kyle Schwarber very well. I've interviewed him a handful of times in my life and had, I think, 1 or 2 other conversations without a camera around. I can't imagine, though, he would strictly go to Pittsburgh without them sitting down and saying, this is our offseason plan. And that can be a little scary when you're the first guy to get the money.
Yes.
Because the team could say, here's our plans for our outfield. Here's how we're going to improve the rest of the lineup. And it sounds great. And then none of that shit happens. And guess what? You're the lead dog. And you're like, who else is with me? It's a bunch of young, unproven guys who might turn into something, but that doesn't sound great.
Another thing that he could do, look, we're just talking theoretically. If he wanted to be that guy in Pittsburgh, it would have to include an opt out after every single year. Like, if you're not doing
somewhere after
you were
2
doing,
years.
then I'm out of here. I don't see this happening. I'm trying to help Pittsburgh out, but yeah, I'm happy they made the offer.
I am too. We've been begging them to do something, and if there indeed is a 9-figure offer, then that's good. And it's not going to make Pirates fans feel any better if the offer is out there and the player doesn't follow suit. But I do wonder this. Do you think that would have any – how do you think this is making Paul Skeens feel?
I better.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. This is how I feel if I'm a Pirates fan or I'm Paul Skeens or just on the roster in general. You offered him, $25 million a year. We better go spend that in free agency then. If we got that to spend, then if we don't get Schwarber, we need some other people.
Yeah.
So
right.
That's now in my mind, that's what we're spending at least in this offseason. And if we don't, and this is just a play for clicks and to appease the fan base that we tried, like, I don't want to hear that. Like, you have 25 mil to go out this offseason for the next 4 years, then let's go do it.
That's good. Leave a comment. Where do you think Schwarber is going? Let's play a little guess how much. What do you think the contract dimensions look like, years and dollar figures? I had him going back to Philly, I believe, on a 4-year deal in our free agency frenzy, trade, pickup thing, whatever we did, draft, I guess is what we'll call it.
I don't feel like that offer is too far off from what he's going to get. It could end up being like a 4-year 115, 4-year 120 or something like that. But
totally.
I think the offer was a good offer.
Yep, I would agree. All right. So with the winter meetings, we're going to play a little game. Give me one playoff and one non-playoff team from last year that you want to make the most noise while down in Florida this week. So let's each go first with a playoff team from a year ago. Who are you going to go with?
The Tigers. And I think it's either time to put up or shut up. You either trade Tarek Skubal or you go add. You go get Alex Bregman. Go get your guy that you need. Because I feel like relying solely on what they have in their organization has worked out okay for them. Like, look, they made a run, not last year, the year before was a better run. Like, it's there, but they need to push forward. And if they're not going to do that, then it's time to trade. If you're going to this is what I think more than anything. If you have it in your mind that you're going to trade Tarek Skubal, you have to do it in the offseason. You cannot trade him during the season. Like, that is how you got pitchforks outside your stadium, because you're going to be in contention. Like, you're not falling out of contention. The AL Central is wide open. You're going to be there. And if you trade him in July, I think that's when fans get crazy. If you trade him in the offseason, they're not going to be happy, but it gives them time to kind of like, okay, what did we get? How's this season going to play out? And by the time, if you're in July and you're in better shape than you were in the previous year, I think it makes everything okay. But I think they're a team that needs to really figure it out and figure it out quickly, because in my opinion, again, I think if they're doing the Skubal thing, they got to do it in the offseason.
Okay. I'm going to also be in the Midwest. I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs. Well, we heard they were close on Dylan Cease. They just couldn't deal with the deferrals the way that the Toronto Blue Jays could. That is the worst thing you can tell Cubs fans right now. We were close on a guy who got more than $200 million. We were close to helping our starting rotation, which definitely needs it. Zach Gallen, are you going there or not? Like, within about an 18-minute span, we had him going to the north side of Chicago, and then Bubbly Bobby took it all back and said, no, they're really interested in him. So where are we going with all of that? They had a nice little run last year. They took care of the Padres in 3. They went the distance against, rival Milwaukee. So they've got all the pieces, it feels like, in place. And this is the year they have to go do it, because they got a ton of guys who are in their walk year, either everyday player or guys who can opt out. And that includes a group like Nico Horner, Ian Happ, Carson Kelly, Jameson Tyone, Matthew Boyd could opt out. Shota, he ended up accepting the 1-year qualifying offer. Are we good with this rotation, or are we not good? Because last year, y'all couldn't figure out what to do in a decisive Game 5. Like, who do we start? We don't like starting Shota, so we're going to put him in the bullpen. Then we're going to bring him out after an inning. There's just too much yuck that's going on with the Chicago Cubs. So let's figure this. I know they went and got Phil Maton. I like that. Are we good with just letting Kyle Tucker walk and letting Owen Casey and Ballesteros battle it out? Are we good there? Bullpen help. They've lost Keller. They've lost Thielbar. They've lost Pomerantz. As I mentioned, Maton's nice. There's a lot of issues that's going on with this team. Go do something to get your fan base excited before the holidays.
I like that. I agree.
Team that did not make the postseason.
I'm fudging this one a little bit because this team did make the playoffs, but I mean, they were 83 and 79 last year and just kind of squeaked in. I'm going to Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, you did kind of fudge that.
I fudged it up a little bit, but I'm so interested in what they're going to do, Chris, because there's been all sorts of talk about Hunter Green and trading a starting pitcher. If they have anything on that team, it is starting pitching depth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, just in their big league rotation, this is from Fangraphs, the roster resource. Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Brady Singer, Nick Lodolo, and Chase Burns. That's before you get to Chase Petty, Rhett Lauder. These guys, they have starting pitching in spades. It's time to go trade one of those guys and bring in a bat. 7th in WHIP last year in the big leagues. Anywhere from middle of the pack to bottom of the pack offensively. We know what they have to do. You talked about it earlier, some sort of position player leader. And so if you're not going to go out there, because the reports are they don't have a ton of money to spend in the offseason. And Reds fans have heard that a lot as of late. $15-20 million is what the reports are that they have to spend in free agency. If you can't go get it done there, because most of these big sluggers are going to cost more than that, trade market's where you can go. And everybody wants a starting pitcher. I'm telling you, you can get hitters if you're willing to dangle one of those starters, especially if it's a Hunter Green type pitcher. So I'm very curious. I like the ball club. I love the city. I think they deserve some moves like this. And I truly feel like they are pretty damn close to being very, very competitive. Not squeak into the playoffs, but a team that could really vie for the NL Central title. If they went out and made these moves, I think they're 1-2 moves away offensively from being a very, very good ball club.
Well, I'm going to actually follow the rules and pick a team that did not make the playoffs, if that's okay with you. And by the way, for all of you people who think that John Boy Media is a coastal elitist company, we are not, because all 4 of the teams we just picked reside in the Midwest. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Royals. Don't look at the standings. Do you have any idea what their record was last year?
Ooh, gosh, it wasn't good.
Well, that's what I thought too.
78 and
they finished 82 and 80. They were only 6 games
Really?
back of the Guardians in the Central.
You
and
know
it
what?
shocked me.
I forgot about that.
Right.
I was there in September, late in the year, and that's when Vinny Pasquantino says, if we beat Joe Ryan, we're making the freaking playoffs. And they did beat Joe Ryan, and they didn't make the playoffs.
So I didn't realize, I had to go back because they just felt so out of mind distant for much of the year, and they were not, which means that they're pretty close. And you talked about the Cincinnati Reds having pitching. This is a more veteran group, but is a really, really solid rotation, right? Reagans, Lugo, Waka, Bubic. That's a really, really good deep rotation. It's the deepest rotation in that division. It's not the best because Tarek Skubal's so much better than anybody else in that division that he kind of tips it toward Detroit's way, but it is the deepest. But they've never figured out the outfield situation. They don't have anybody out there that scares you at all. Now, Mike Yastrzemski came over in that trade from San Francisco and played very well. Had an OPS right around 840. And if they bring him back, I think that is a solid move. Outfielders who were there all year, Kyle Isbell is the guy that had the highest OPS at 654. That's horrific. India was kind of an outfielder. He was still sub 700. Waters, Caglione, I get it that they're waiting on him. They have to. His, I think, OPS was under 600. He was horrific. Lofton, Canna, anybody that they got out there was just horrible. It didn't matter who you put in the outfield. It stunk. So if you want to go trade Chris Bubic, who's in his last year, I don't know what sort of outfielder you could get for him. Go find somebody. I would say even go make a play for Cody Bellinger. To me, that would make tremendous sense. In that ballpark, with that swing, I think he would lead the world in doubles. I don't know. Or else go fix yourselves. And I don't even want to see you do that because I think that you would surpass my team. But Just
both
telling
your
you.
teams, the Cleveland and the Royals, have been searching for outfield help for
Yes.
forever. And then I was looking back, I was like thinking, okay, who? I know it was when they went to the World Series, Alex Gordon and Lorenzo Cain. I was like, who's the guy in right field? I couldn't put a finger on it. Alex Rios was a dog.
In 2014.
Well, no, he had a bad year in 2015. Did he have a good year in 2014 then?
I don't even remember him getting there, but okay.
Maybe I was completely wrong. Who was the right field? I thought Alex Rios was really good. It wasn't good for them.
No, Alex Rios was a very good player, but mainly in Toronto.
Yeah,
So,
why
hold
did I
on.
think he was so good there?
Hold
Right
on.
field was Norie Aoki in 2014.
Aoki, I remember him. Okay.
Yeah, and then 2015 when they actually won the whole dang thing, it was Alex Rios. He played 105 games, which was 640 OPS. I know Gerard Dyson was there a little bit. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Okay.
Paulo Orlando and Alex Rios. Yeah. And Gerard Dyson.
Paulo Orlando.
Vroom.
That is a blast from the
Yeah,
past.
it
That guy
is.
could fly. They had guys that could fly,
They could run.
dude.
That's what they did. They shortened the game. They had that monster bullpen, and that was their deal back then. All right. So those are your teams. Leave us who you want to see step up to the plate. One playoff team, one non-playoff team. Half of the hosts on this show follow the rules. No worries.
You know mine was better anyway.
Today's edition of Baseball Today, it is brought to you by Shopify. Shopify, the best place to start and grow a business, which is why we partner with them here at John Boy Media. Yes, John Boy Media. You may have noticed we relaunched our merch store on Shopify with our new /line site. It was a total dream. We actually brought the ideas. Shopify brought the execution. Now, as you're shopping our new launch, check out what Shopify can do for you. Life really is a home run when you have Shopify on your side. We got Shopify Sidekick, Shopify Magic, and the suite of AI tools, total game changer. It's revolutionizing the way that you can build and manage a business. You have to own AI assistant. In fact, you have your own AI assistant guiding you on everything, directions, reports, editing images, content ideas. Shopify's got your next move totally covered. So if you want to be like us here at John Boy Media and start building your own brand from the ground up, time to hop on over to Shopify, start your trial today. Click that link, shopify.com/today. If you're ready to leave the amateurs and head on over to the big leagues, Shopify is the answer. All right, some nice individual news coming out of Orlando. We have a new Hall of Famer. Jeff Kent, former Giants second baseman, is headed to Cooperstown. He was actually voted in by the Contemporary Eras Committee. That is a 16-person panel made up of Hall of Fame players, executive, and a few media members as well to kind of do right what was once done wrong by the Baseball Writers of America. So there were 16 votes. You have to get 12 to get in. There were 8 players on the ballot. Jeff Kent received 14 of the 16 votes. Here he is when he joined MLB Tonight afterward.
It's a moment of satisfaction of the things that I did right in my career, the things that I consistently stuck to, the hard work, the gratification that you get from playing the game the right way, and I love the game. I love the game. I still do.
That's one of the all-time red asses in the history of the sport who is crying on a Zoom call. You can tell how much it means to these guys, particularly when they think that they don't have the chance after spending 10 years on the writer's ballot and not even getting 50% of the vote.
Does that have to like really chap the writers that like what the way you describe this committee, like to right their wrongs? Like that's interesting that we have that. I'm glad that we do.
Yes.
But my goodness. Look, this Jeff Kent was right, like in my wheelhouse, like growing up. This is a guy I watched on the Giants, on the Dodgers. I think he was, he played for a bunch of different teams.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Jays, Mets, Indians, Astros after that as well. But a guy that I always was like, dang, like this guy does play the game very, very hard. I don't think I ever saw him smile.
No.
And I know he had the mustache to maybe hit it every once in a while, but he was a guy that played the game hard, and so I respect what he's done. He surely has the accolades, won the MVP in 2000. probably most famously known for punching Barry Bonds. Like in my mind, that's what I think about. I don't know. It's an interesting one to me. I'm a big Hall guy, so I think the guy with his accolades, 350 homers, 51 homers from the second base position, as I mentioned, the MVP award. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, that's the most ever by a second baseman. He hit 351 of his 377 as a second baseman. He also has the most 100 RBI seasons as a second baseman. And I know that some people have soured in the way that we evaluate numbers, but this is a guy who hit fourth in a lineup. There's not a lot of second basemen who do that. And he was a power, middle-of-the-order bat. But as you can see with a 290 average, he wasn't just a slugger. He was a great, great batter. He talked about how Dusty Baker changed his baseball trajectory when he got to San Francisco. He's a little bit like Adrian Beltre, and Beltre was a better player in his 20s than Jeff Kent was, but they both seemingly just took off for Cooperstown in their 30s. And Kent gave a lot of credit to Dusty Baker, whom he said was a former hitting coach, and really told him to start using the big part of the ballpark. Back then it was Candlestick Park before they moved into their present home. And he said that really changed things, that he was very much a dead pull hitter when he got there. And that just kind of opened his eyes and opened up to the player that he could be. I always did a fake ballot when I was on Intentional Talk. And there were years I included him on it, and there were years that I didn't, because you could only vote for 10 guys. And so I think that that's part of the muck that got created with Baseball Writers of America. To me, as we tip our cap to him and say congratulations, maybe the more interesting part is the 7 guys who didn't get voted in. That's Carlos Delgado, Donnie Baseball, Dale Murphy. And then Clemens, Bonds, Sheffield, and Fernando Valenzuela will not even be eligible the next time this Contemporary Eras group meets in 2028 because they did not receive 5 votes. And Sunday was the first time that this new rule got implemented, where if you don't get 5 votes, you can't appear on the next ballot. So the next time they can be nominated, any of those guys, is 2031, and then that's probably it. So what this means is Sunday may have officially closed the door on Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens ever getting in the Hall of Fame. Do you have any feeling about that?
Yeah, I don't know. The steroid connection, it's tough for me, this is me like speaking as a former player. Like I hate it. I truly do. I'm very close to the situation, as many people know. It really turns me off on players. When they have steroid suspensions. To me, you cheated the game, and you cheated everybody that plays the game without that. And I was one of those guys. So it's difficult. I think nowadays it's obviously there's testing, there's all these things, it's 100% wrong. Those guys in those days, there was very loose rules around it. So that's where my mind gets muddled. The percentage of Major League Baseball players that was using during the Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds era, it was pretty high. And again, there wasn't testing, there wasn't all these things going on. And then all of a sudden it became this big scandal. So if those guys played in today's era and they just got caught for steroids, I'd be like, you're out for good. No chance. It was a different era back then. I think that's what a lot of people will say. I don't think you can fault them for that. Now, to me, I just go back and forth. If they ended up in the Hall and you told the whole story, I think that's maybe the best case scenario. Like, hey, yeah, these guys are in the Hall of Fame, but whatever, you just write it along their plaque. I don't know on their plaque, but it's a very difficult thing for me to wrap my head around because I am so against steroids, but the era in which they played wasn't.
Once again, when I did my fake ballot, I voted for those guys, I believe, every single time. And that is because I thought the sport didn't care enough about it to implement a full testing plan until after the Mitchell report. And I have always said that if you test positive, then that's where I would draw the line. But before then, I thought everybody was kind of in the same boat because the players who took the steroids didn't care. Management, well, whatever. If you go hit the ball 500 feet and people are going to watch our game because of it, cool. Even we as the media, we didn't press as hard as we should have, in my opinion. The baseball writers did. And although Bonds and Clemens kept creeping up, it wasn't high enough throughout their 10 years of eligibility. Now, I want to make this one point, right? This is a special eras committee, a contemporary eras committee that, as I mentioned, is supposed to correct the wrongs from the baseball writers. Well, obviously, these people have a certain stance on steroids, and even more stringent than the baseball writers, because these guys didn't even get 5 out of 16 votes. I want to remind everybody that Bud Selig, who was the commissioner of baseball at the time when steroids really exploded in the 90s and the early 2000s, was voted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame by the Today's Game Era Committee, a specialized 16-member panel with executives, managers, and players. So just like the one here, and there was even some overlap of the guys that were voting Sunday as to the ones that voted Bud Selig in nearly unanimously. So the players, F you. The commissioner who oversaw the sport at the time, go right in. No problem whatsoever. I want to know what the thinking is there.
You got a point, Chris. It's such like a complex, nuanced situation to me. I don't know. Like most of the time I want to say just like anybody that did anything, you're out. That's like my general stance. And then again, you brought up the fact like if you didn't test positive, how can you hold it against them? Was the game looking the other way? All these things. I don't know, man. Look, there was a picture. There's a picture of a guy who had a very prominent 2001 season. I don't want to bring up his name because I don't want to, do it. Very prominent. Let's just say it ended very well for him. He was raising his arms, and you could just tell. Like, you could look at these guys. You go watch games back then. These guys were freaking massive, and you can't get that way naturally. You cannot. And unless you are dedicating, your health, your diet has to be in. You can't do it and play baseball. I promise you that with that schedule. So, man, was it running rampant in that era.
I went back yesterday and checked out Jeff Kent's 2000 MVP season, which was fantastic.
I just looked at that too.
Go look at the top 10. 8 of the top 10 had OPSs over $1. The other 2 were 900. One guy I think was 994. And you can also go look and say how many of those guys were connected to PEDs. Some made the Hall of Fame. Some got shut out. It is an interesting exercise if you want to go back at all. It's easy for me. I lived it all. I was working in media. I love the sport, and I still struggle with how we need to define this a couple hundred years from now on plaques and everything in Cooperstown. So you can leave your opinion in the comments. This is a safe space, everybody. But I do think it's important for people to kind of share their thoughts. And I don't think it's as simple as this or that. I think it is something that I've really struggled with over the years. But this is the way we see it. So there you go. Congratulations, Jeff Kent. We'll see you next July in Cooperstown, New York. That's pretty awesome. All right, a couple of trades in recent days we didn't have a chance to chop it up about. Seattle shipped catcher Harry Ford to Washington for lefty reliever Jose Ferrer. Boston picked up back end of the rotation depth. They're getting Johan Oviedo from Pittsburgh in a 5-player deal for, among others, the Password. So out of those 4 teams, who did the best and who did the worst in those 2 deals?
I like Seattle getting Jose Ferrer because I think that he has more in him. Still a young guy with control. A really good year in 2024. And then last year, he ditched the 4-seam fastball and went exclusively sinker. And his sinker, like the rates on his sinker just weren't as good. Like the batting average went way up. So I think that's something that they'll implement like in that park. Like bring back the 4-seam fastball, because when you have those two heaters, it just makes it more difficult for hitters to kind of like sit on that pitch, one sinking, one going to the top of the zone when you throw 97 miles an hour. So I think they did really, really well with this. I mean, they need a lefty in that pen, a guy that, can get outs. He's not a big strikeout guy. I'm curious to see if they try to make him a strikeout guy, or if they want to keep the ground ball rate, which is elite, try to maybe middle both of those. But I really like this trade for the Mariners. Not a free agent until 2030. So again, a ton of team control, and the part of their team that they were looking to upgrade, and he's the answer to it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they only had Gabe Spire as a left-hander out of the bullpen. I think they had Caleb Ferguson, but he was a non-leverage guy. And by the end of the playoffs, Spire was like, oh my God, I got to go out there again. Like he's dragging ass, and we all know it. The more guys see him in a short series, you're talking about guys who are basically 2-pitch pitchers. It's advantage hitter, and we saw that at times, even against left-handers. He was kind of getting all over the place. I am curious, though, because I think Seattle fans are furious about this particular trade, because with his lefty reliever, those numbers, look, they could improve, right? He is a ground ball specialist, even though he throws 98. So we'll see where that takes him. But to give up a 22-year-old stick who is a 400 on base guy throughout the minors, and the only reason you're giving up on him is because you've got a guy who hit 60 homers last year and you don't have a place for him, I think that's kind of tough. Maybe you need more of a proven commodity.
Yeah, look, I get it, but they're what Seattle fans believe, and I think it can be true. Like, they're this close.
They are this close.
So like,
and
you got you got to give up good players to get good players.
I know, but the question is how good is the player that they're getting back? With Harry Ford, you're talking about a 22-year-old catching prospect at a time where there aren't a whole lot of good hitting catchers. So I think you feel like, man, did we just give him away for a guy who in a couple of years, are we even going to remember who he is? I think that's the thought process.
Okay.
All right.
Look, I've experience with that. Matt Capps came over from the who was he with at that point? The Twins gave up Wilson Ramos. This is almost the exact same situation.
Yeah.
We had Joe Mauer, Wilson Ramos.
He came over from Washington.
Washington, yeah. But we needed Matt Capps, and we won the AL Central that year because we gave up Wilson Ramos, and who went on to have like a nice career, and Mauer stopped catching. So like I saw this happen, and in my opinion, I would do it again every single time.
Interesting. For me, I thought the team that did best was actually the Pirates. It's Justine San, right? Garcia. Isn't that the password? Isn't that how we're saying it?
Yeah.
Now he got a cup of coffee up with Boston. He is the type of guy that the Pirates have to take chances on. I think that he's look, high end. He could be a good masher. He's never going to be a big on base dude. I think, they felt like in some of the reports I was reading that his AA season was very good. He became more selective. Then when he got up to AAA, he kind of resorted back to the swinging for the fences mentality. If somehow the Pirates can dial him in, this is the sort of guy that, hey, can provide some excitement and some pop to a lineup that desperately needs it. So I like that move. I'm in. In. Was there anybody that you thought did poorly? Because for me, actually, I thought Seattle, you thought they did best. To me, I'm a little worried about giving up.
I mean, I don't know. Lefty relievers that can get the job done are big to me. So I'm going to go the other way, and it has nothing to do with Harry Ford. The Nationals, they just signed a catcher to a long-term deal, and it just hasn't panned out. Keibert Ruiz, 5 years, $80 million.
God, he got that much?
Yeah. Or is it 8 years, 50? Maybe that's what it is. I think it's 8 years.
That one.
I think it's 8 years, 50 is what it is.
Yeah, that one sounds.
I got him mixed up.
Better. Hold on.
That hasn't worked out for them. The last two seasons, the offense has dipped completely to the point where, they wanted to go make a play. So I think they did fine bringing in Harry Ford. Great for them. But I think my point is, it's looking like you missed. because you traded for Keibert Ruiz, then you sign into an extension, and he doesn't look like the player you thought he was going to be.
Yeah, it is 8 years, 50.
Yeah.
So he signed all the way through his age 31 season in 2030. Then there's a $12 and $14 million team options, which I think they've already turned in the paperwork to not pick those up. But I could be wrong. So, yeah, that's tough to stomach, and that's part of the reason the Washington Nationals are kind of in the boat that they're in right now. All right, last thing before we get out of here for the day, we're going to focus on your Minnesota Twins. Ken Rosenthal, again, with a report that the Twins plan on hanging on to veterans Byron Buxton and pitchers Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez. Obviously, a lot of trade rumors circling around all three of those guys. Instead, the Twins want to build around them and compete in 2026. Does this make any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like if we didn't know anything about like the Twins and kind of what they've gone through as far as team for sale, not for sale, all these different things. If you're just looking at this roster, yes, it makes sense to want to compete in the AL Central with those pitchers, with Byron Buxton. You know, there's some still intriguing offensive players that the Twins have on the roster. I'll believe it when I see it though, Chris. Like I know Kenny Rosenthal is a trusted reporter, but this could just be like a leverage play. Like if somebody came and blew them out of the water for one of these pitchers, I still think they consider the deal and can possibly make it happen. Here's the thing: if your Twins front office and specifically Twins ownership, if you want to have any semblance of a fan base next year showing up to your park, you got to keep these guys. Mm-hmm. If you trade these guys and you say, all right, we're committing to whatever 2027. It's going to be an empty ballpark. It already might be that next year, but it would for sure be that way if you traded away these guys. I said in the offseason, one way they could get fans back and interested in this team was to sign Torrey Hunter as their manager. They did not do that. They went out and got Derek Shelton. Shelton, nice guy, good manager. Fan interest is nil with him. So again, I'll believe it when I see it. If they're in their uniforms on opening day, I'll be pretty happy because I do think again they still have like a decent roster.
It's okay. Well,
guys got to step.
What did they? To me, it makes no sense. They traded 10 or 11 guys at the deadline.
Mostly relievers,
right?
So like the more and more I think about that, I don't hate it. It was mostly relievers. And guys that weren't going to be there next year anyway. So, you know,
still got to fill some spots.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
I know you are. But to me, it doesn't make any sense because I think you could get a haul for these guys. I really do. First of all, you look at Buxton's deal and you have to remember he's got a no trade, which he actually told me on dugout discussions. I love it here in Minnesota. That's why I'm not waiving it. And so at the time, but it sounds like he has rethought that a little bit, and you could do that in the off season. You know, you don't have the craziness swirling around of what do I do with my family in the middle of a year. Here, you've got a few months to, deal with the idea of finding a new home. Minnesota is the only place he's ever played in. He's got 3 years and $45 million left on his deal.
You don't think they could get a lot of money for him, or not a lot of money, a lot of prospects or players for him.
Joe Ryan's got 2 years of control left. This is not a rental. Lopez, 2 years, $43 million. I know he had the injury issue, but he has been a very, very good pitcher. And the other part of this equation is, do I really believe that they're going to try and go get help? How much help are we talking about?
It's going to be on the margins. It's going to be reclamation projects. I mean, they've done a good job of that. They have actually done a good job of signing guys, kind of like not castaways. Like Harrison Bader come over last year was excellent for them. Like they've shown the ability to do that.
Yes.
Is it enough? That's the question.
But that's a really thin needle you're trying to thread.
Agreed.
Every year. That is a tough thing. It doesn't mean it can't happen. And you're right. If you do have a proven track record that, hey, I can get it done, then good for you. I don't know. Are Walker Jenkins and Emmanuel Rodriguez, are those guys like penciled in?
I think so. Matt Wallner needs to not figure it out. Like the OPS is fine, but he has the potential to be like an absolute masher. He's got to change some swing mechanics. Luke Keeshaw's a stud. Like it's there. It's there. It's going to take a lot though.
We'll see. All right, we're keeping our eye on what's happening in Orlando. If there's a huge trade, if there's a huge free agent signing, we're going to hop on here and probably get out a special edition for a reaction. We love those things. So just make sure you keep the alerts on. If you haven't already subscribed, I have to imagine all of you are subscribed. But if not, smash that button. Smash the like button too. Give us a little thumbs up. That certainly helps us in the algo. And that really, really will help us continue to do what we love to do here at John Boy Media and Baseball Today. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you Tuesday here on Baseball Today.